Welcome into WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson as we have the WPIAL Team Championships to recap and a preview of the PIAA tournament. Actually, some results flowing into us as well, which we'll update you on. But first things first, Jeff, we got to start in AA because a new champion has been crowned. Burrell's reign at the top has ended, and Quaker Valley is the new WPIAL champion in AA. But let's first start a little bit going back to how it all started. And really no surprises in the opening rounds. Montour over Fort Cherry, Mount Pleasant over Jeff Morgan, Laurel over Knox, Southmoreland over Freedom. Burgestown over Southmoreland, no surprise. Quaker Valley over Laurel, no surprise. Burl over Montour, no surprise. But Mount Pleasant gets some revenge. They beat Best Center 37-28, and in that match to get Mount Pleasant to the semifinals, it was a big one at 126. Duncan Blows getting the fall over Jackson Guire. He was losing in that match, 9-point swing, and that's all the difference, as it was a 9-point win for Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we'll talk a lot about the semis and the finals, but I mean that was one where I was surprised that they were able to turn it around, especially with Mount Pleasant getting some other guys back in. But there was quite a few of those matches where we'll talk about later, Collinsville and Latrobe, and that's why they wrestle the matches. So we definitely have a lot to talk about tonight, and boy, were we wrong on some of them.
And now that moved into the semifinals. Burrell and Mount Pleasant had the rematch, and it was Burrell winning it once again, 33-24.
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised that it was a little bit closer than it was the last time? Because I mean,
I'm not because of the fact that I think Mount Pleasant got a couple more guys back. I think they still had a starter or two out in that section final match, so getting those guys back certainly helped out a lot. So I'm not surprised it got closer, but at the end of the day, Burrell does what Burrell does, and being able to advance. And obviously they came ready to wrestle and getting the big wins and being able to get to the finals. But the other match was Quaker Valley and Burgestown, and what a duel that was. 36-35, Quaker Valley beats Burgestown. Quaker Valley, Jeff, a team that we talked about and saying we didn't know a lot about them, right? We were impressed with them. We thought they had a great Allegheny County tournament, but we didn't see them against any top tier competition as far as in other duels. Right, their best team they faced that we saw all year was Laurel, so we didn't know what to expect. Burgestown comes into this, in my opinion, I picked them to win. I thought they were the favorite, but Burgestown was without Gavin Suika, and that's what ended up hurting them.
Yeah, I mean, so not having Gavin in the lineup definitely set them back. We thought that was going to be a close match, and I think you and I both said that on our last show, was that bottom half quarter or semifinal was going to be very close. Quaker Valley. I've got AAA on my mind because I'm looking at the AAA brackets. Quaker Valley, we know what their big guns are capable of doing. We know what Kutchemer's able to do. Richey, even Cruel. We know what these guys are capable of. It's those other wrestlers that I had questions about, and I know you had questions about. What were they going to be like against Burgettstown and Burrell's other guys, right? Because for 15 years, Burrell has made a living off of their non-superstars stepping up to a plate and getting big-time results. So with Quaker Valley, we know that they have a lot of top talent, but how was that bottom and middle tier wrestlers going to perform? And boy, everything went their way, and they really wanted it on Saturday, and that showed, because that wasn't just, I think they could have been satisfied it's easy to be satisfied knocking off Burgettstown and then going into Burrell, but they just kept the momentum going. They were not leaving Houston until they came away with that championship.
Yeah, and it came out. I mean, our guest that's going to come on here, he won it against the Burrow match, but he started things off against Burgestown, Justin Richey. He gets the fall over Eric Kovach, and that was huge because Kovach is a solid wrestler for Burgestown. If Kovach can keep that to a decision, then we're talking a different story. DJ Slovic had a big win for Burgestown as a 72 over Mason Dimert. But from there, it kind of just went as you would have expected. I mean, but Burgestown's big wrestlers, the Senepal brothers, Parker gets a tech fall, Joey gets a fall. Some thought Parker Senepal had a fall in that match against Isaac McKiglia, but at the end of the day, they didn't get it. They didn't get that fall, and that point ends up lingering. But Rudy Brown, Anthony Lankos both get forfeits at the end. Quaker Valley may send guys out there, so the score may not be quite indicative, but at the same time, Gavin Suika, he would at least get a win. Autumn Snatchko gives up a fall. That's a 9-point swing, and it was just we talked about how close Quaker Valley, Burgestown, Mount Pleasant, Burrell, how close all these teams were. You lose one of your top guys who Suika going in was ranked number 2 in the WPIAL. You lose him, it's hard to come back from, especially in AA.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what we mentioned last time. It's like who's available, who's going to step up, and who has the depth. And Quaker Valley. I was at Peters Township with AAA, and I was following along. And when I saw DJ Slovic had a win over Dimert at 172, I was like, "Oh, that's not a good start, right?" Because I thought that was. I'm not saying Dimert was favored. I thought it was more of a toss-up, but I expected Dimert to get the win. And then, like you said, some other big results rolled in. Not having Suika in there obviously hurt, but you knew that, if you're Burgestown, you know that going into it, so you have to account for that. And as you mentioned, I don't know if Quaker Valley, they obviously forfeited the last, 2 weights, so I'm sure it would have been a little bit of a different story, but 36-35, I mean, the goal is to advance on, and they did. They advanced on to the finals when it mattered against Burrell.
That's right. In the third place match, Burgestown defeats Mount Pleasant to at least qualify for the PIAA tournament, a 43-20 victory. So a good bounce back win for Burgestown, a team who had their sights on a WPIAL title after back-to-back runner-up finishes and bringing their whole team back. Minus Shane Kemper, and they end up bouncing back, wrestling well against Mount Pleasant. How about a couple of big wins they got as well? You look at Joey Senepal with a win over Greg Chalice. Rudy Brown defeats Jamison Pokliembo.
Yep, I thought that was a huge win. Rudy Brown, I thought was huge.
Yeah, and Anthony Lankos over Lucas Chalice. So, all told, some big wins for Burgestown.
Yeah, and they needed that. They needed that to bounce back, and we actually just saw it tonight. They were able to get a really hard-fought win, come from behind win tonight to advance into Hershey. So, we're going to have, at least 3 teams represented there in Hershey out of the WPIAL. So, yeah, they needed those guys to step up because losing a guy like Suika is a big deal, right? So they needed to step up in order to make that happen. And, Burgestown gets the 34-28 win over Fort LaBeouf tonight in Fort LaBeouf. So that was a big win, and their reward is Brookville. So they're definitely gonna have their hands full there.
Well, let's hold off on the PIAA preview, Jeff, until we finish the
WPIAL
championships.
I like to jump ahead.
Well, let's talk about this WPIAL final. Quaker Valley over Burrell 30-28, so it ends Burrell's streak of WPIAL championships, caps at 15 in a row. No team is ever going to be able to do that again. That was just an incredible run that Burrell had. And really, the match just started so well. It started well for Burrell, right? Nico Zanella gets a win. Damian Barr over Mason Dimert, right there. Then they get a fall, so a 12-0 lead. But Patrick Cutchember getting a fall over Cole Clark in a match that he just completely dominated, just took his wrestling to another level. And then after giving up a fall, that's when Quaker Valley went on their run. At one point, they're down 18-6 to Burrell. And, when you give Burrell momentum, it could be lights out. But, a pair of falls at 6 and 13. Logan Richey holds Cooper Hornack to a 4-3 decision. And then from there on, Brandon Krull had a huge win at 32 over Nicholas Farah. And then Justin Richey gets to come up to the mat. His team losing by 4 needs at least a major to tie, but he gets the fall in 37 seconds to win it.
Yeah, this match had so many ups and downs, right? Because you look at the start of that, and you got to say Burrell was in a really great position, right? Zanella gets a close 3-1 decision. Barr beats Dimert, who, again, you're one of the top guys on the team, and you go 0-2 on that Saturday. That shows how close these duels were, right? So that to me was a toss-up match there. So Burrell, I thought, was in a good position there. Martin gets a fall. Those are the guys that you need to get the fall. But then Kutchember just stopped. I feel like once he got the fall over Cole Clark, even though there was 12-0 at that point before he got the fall, I feel like that really changed the tides there. Boylan gets another fall, so momentum swings back. But then you're going up through the meat of Quaker Valley's lineup, which is pretty strong, pretty tough, right? Cazales is able to get a fall in under a minute, and I thought that Logan Richey Cooper Hornack match was going to be close for sure. I wasn't expecting a major there by Hornack, so I thought Richey did a good job. But the match that I thought kind of sealed it for them was that Brandon Kroll match at 132, beating Nico Farah from Burrell. And that was right after Marcus Richey has a close decision with Travis Newell, who I thought, you look on paper and you're saying that's a toss-up match all day. So to win that one and then Farah, you knew they were in the driver's seat regardless of what happened down, the rest of the way. And I expected Richey to get bonus points. So I figured it was either going to be a tech or a fall, and getting a fall in 37 seconds kind of solidifies that and says that he's clearly the better wrestler there. But it was a back and forth match. I mean, when you look at the lead swings, Owen, it was 12-0 Burrell, and then all of a sudden it was 21-21 after 126, and that was everyone's match, and it was a great dual meet.
Yeah, Burrow ends up winning more matches. They win 7 of the 13, but bonus points is what did it. Burrow picks up 2 falls and a major decision, but all the Quaker Valley wins outside of 26 and 32 were by fall. And when you have 4 wins by fall in a tightly a tight match like this, that's all it takes for them to to become a WPIAL champion.
Yeah, I mean, so at Burrell, you look at what they've made their money on, and it's doing just that, like winning, and Quaker Valley just kind of not saying they beat them at their own game, but they came out and they got punched in the mouth and they just punched back harder. I mean, obviously we knew the day was going to come when Burrell wasn't going to win, but I think I picked Quaker Valley 4th. I think you picked them 3rd. And I don't know if that was motivation or maybe they weren't even listening, but that boy, the tides have turned, man. I mean, if you would have said Quaker Valley, Burgestown, or Burrell, who was going to win it this year at the start of the season, I would say, obviously Burrell or Burgestown, because of the fact that they wrestled twice before, and Burgestown didn't really lose a whole lot. And, there was just question marks at Quaker Valley's other guys, right? But when you have 3 Richeys between Justin, Marcus, and Logan, that helps. And Patrick Kutchember is going to bring the heat every single time. It was those other guys that you're like, hey, how are they going to do, right? How are they going to do against some of the bigger guns? And like you said, whether they won the most matches or not, it didn't matter. They won the bonus point battle, which ultimately won them the duel.
Absolutely. Let's talk to the hero here as we'll try to grab him on the show. From Quaker Valley, he started the duels against Burgestown, and he ends up sealing it for the WPIAL championships. So we'll get him on the show, and that's Quaker Valley's Justin Richey. Justin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, has it set in for you and your team that you are WPIAL champions?
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Well, talk a little bit about, go into that day. Jeff and I had talked a little bit about it prior to the WPIAL championships. Obviously we knew you guys had a good team. We thought you had a great Allegheny County tournament, but we hadn't seen you in a lot of duels, right? You hadn't been tested as far as in your duel season thus far. So you come into this one, talk a little bit about what you guys were talking about and getting ready for as you had a solid team in Burgestown.
Yeah. We knew this was our year. This is the best team Quaker Valley has ever assembled. And this has been and winning a WPIAL title and beating the streak has been our goal since the high school program started 5 years ago. And we knew this was the year. And we just went out there and performed, and we had a game plan and we executed.
Well, you got the chance to start it, right, with Burgestown. You were the very first match, and then you ended it by sealing it for your team to get the victory. How cool was that to start the whole thing off and end it for them?
Yeah, that was really cool. I was excited when they called 152 to start it. I got real excited, and I was pretty hyped.
Yeah, you ended up in your first match. You had the big win over Eric Kovac, and really it was a match that Eric Kovac is a solid wrestler for Burgestown, but you were able to get the fall, and I think that really kind of catapulted your team a little bit.
Yeah, definitely was a great start for our team. Got everyone going. Great start, and it just snowballed. We had a lot of great performances from everyone on the team, from Will Campbell, who was able to right after me, who was able to hold a decision, and just everyone else. So yeah.
Yeah, and obviously getting the bonus points was huge for you guys in both matches, right? But every match that you end up winning against Burgestown is by fall, and then against Burrell you get 4 falls to win it. Was that been your practice the whole time? Is hey, we need to get bonus points, we need to get falls?
Yeah. We go out there and we try to put up as many points on the board as possible. Just trying to be offensive, and that's how our coaches train us, and that's what we do.
Justin, looking at your career, you've had a good career, and it's hard to believe that you've never made it to the state tournament. You're going to make it to the state tournament as a team first, so your first time wrestling in the Giant Center is going to be for the team championships. But you as an individual, you had some really good success in your career. I think regional qualifier one year, regional 6 last year, right? So you've been close. I feel like you've been one of those guys that were knocking on the door, and it seems like this may be your year. You were like, I think 113 your freshman year. Now you're up to 152. So is it the weight? What is it that's makes this year the year for Justin Richey?
I think what makes this year the year is I've been training ever since the last season ended. I've been training nonstop, which I haven't really done in my past years. A lot more summer work this year. I'm in a lot better shape, and my technique is way cleaner this year as well. So yeah, I'm really feeling good coming into the individual stretch here, and yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
Talking about this season, you've had some pretty big wins, but you've also had you've got to test yourself against some of the better guys in the state. Chase Kranitz, you wrestled him. Also Sean Taylor from West Allegheny. Talk about the Quaker Valley schedule. It's a tough schedule. You've got to wrestle a lot of different teams, especially some AAA teams. What has the grind been like for you, especially after last year with the COVID year? How different is it, like you said, this year? Because you never really stopped, as you said, training all the way through. It's got to be one blur for you, right?
Yeah, sort of. Just our coaches, we try to make the schedule as tough as possible. We want to wrestle the best kids. That's how we learn. That's how we get better, wrestling the best kids. And so that's why our coaches try to make our schedule as hard as it is, so we can wrestle the best guys.
And looking forward to the postseason, your team has a potential because, like you said, you have so many big name guys, and you guys have a potential to make a lot of noise on the individual side as well. What do you lean on? Because you're obviously a senior, but Kutchember, he's been to the state tournament before. He's had a state medal, but what does he teach you, and what kind of advice does he give to you about reaching those individual goals for you as you move forward to the postseason?
Um, he's you just can't wrestle timid, and you can't wrestle nervous. Like you just gotta wrestle hard, be offensive, and let loose and have fun. And that's the best formula to making it as far as he has. And that's what I've been trying to do every match that I've wrestled this year so far.
Let me ask you this, Justin. How many times a day do you normally take down Coach Cole Nye? Do you is it like 30 or 40 times, or is it
probably daily? Um, yeah.
Yeah, listen. I've known Cole a long time. He likes to get taken down. What can I say? And Justin Richey likes to get takedowns, so it makes sense, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be pretty hard in your household. You've got a couple wrestlers in the family. You got a father who's running for governor. How does wrestling? Where does wrestling come into play when you're at the dinner table and you're like, you got so much going on?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're always talking about wrestling. We're always talking about the NCAA wrestling, like did you see the move Cole Matthews hit, like stuff like that. Like that was sweet. Just like sending each other like clips we see on Flow Wrestling and stuff like that. So yeah, we're all students and fans of the sport, and we love the sport.
Well, Justin, as you look ahead as well, do you have any college plans, any commitments to this point?
Yeah. I'm committed to the College of Gettysburg to continue my academic and wrestling career.
Awesome. So, congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
And just to follow up on Jeff's question, I know you with Patrick, having some success at Hershey, how much will you guys lean on him just with the nerves part, right? Because I'm sure when you guys have that first duel in Hershey on Thursday, you guys will probably be a little bit nervous just being in the Giant Center.
Oh yeah, he's the only one I think that's actually wrestled in the Giant Center. So, but yeah, we're just gonna try and let loose, have fun, and wrestle hard, and that's all we can do, and just see what happens.
Well, it looks like your opponent's going to be Saucon Valley, is who you guys will be taking on. So, one match at a time, I'm sure, is what the coaches are preaching to you. But obviously, best of luck as you head up to Hershey in the Giant Center, and we're excited to see how you guys do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Congrats again.
Justin.
Yeah, thanks.
Justin Richey of Quaker Valley, kind enough to join us on the show, and Jeff just mentioned it, so now I'll let you let loose to preview a little bit. But we got Burgestown, who has defeated Fort LaBeouf, Saucon Valley, who's defeated Canton. Who else has won in AA?
Yeah, so those were the big wins coming in. Burgettstown coming from behind to beat Fort LaBeouf 34-28, and that sets up a match with Brookville. So Burgettstown and Brookville in that first round, and Corey beat Tyrone. That was also a pretty tight dual meet. 36-29 was the final for Corey, which really came out of a very deep District 10. So they're again treated to Notre Dame Green Ponds in the first round. Burrell and Bishop McDevitt wrestle in the first round, and let me tell you, this one's got my interest because District 3 is not super deep, but Bishop McDevitt is a very good team with some big name guys. My gosh, I mean, there's some hammers on that squad, and if they can avoid. So they're really good from 45 on up. Like there's no one better. I don't know if there's anyone better in the state than Bishop McDevitt in AA from 45 on up. But it's their bottom half they have to get in the check, and if they can avoid giving up bonus down low, it's really going to come down to matchups and bonus points like we saw with Burrell and Quaker Valley, because you can win more individual bouts, but if you give up more bonus points, that doesn't tend to trend well for you. So I think it's going to be a lot of close matches there, and I'm excited to see that one. I almost feel bad for Quaker Valley because they win a huge emotional championship, and then they get Saucon Valley, who was second out of District 11, but they had been number one in the state basically for the first half of the year. And to top it off, Ryan Crookham is back, the two-time state champion from Notre Dame, who's now at Saucon Valley, headed to Lehigh, one of the best in the nation. He's back in the lineup at 138 pounds, which, I mean, that just is a game changer, right? That is certainly going to change the tides if they have aspirations to win a state championship, which I know they do. So, yeah, I don't know. Quaker Valley's they've got some magic, but Saucon Valley from top to bottom is one of the best teams in the state, regardless of class. So, it's a real bummer. It's a real bummer. And I'm not trying to rain on their parade because they've got a lot to look forward to. But it's going to be a grind, man. That's going to be a really good match.
And then who won the Montgomery-West Perry match?
West Perry pulled it out 36-28, I think the final was. That was, again, District 3. I said they it wasn't deep, but I thought that was a really good win for West Perry over Montgomery, who had a really good District 4 tournament. District 4 was really loaded this year, so unfortunately they're on the bottom half with Chestnut Ridge. Hickory is going to get West Perry in that opening round match. I expect Chestnut Ridge to come out of that quadrant into the semifinals, and Forest Hills and Boiling Springs wrestle above them. So that bottom half is pretty stacked when you look at it, with Quaker Valley, Saucon Valley, Boiling Springs, Forest Hills, Chestnut Ridge, and Hickory. So, but then again, on the top, you've got Notre Dame, Green Pond, Burrell, Bishop McDevitt, Brookville, and Faith Christian is one that I'm really looking forward to out of District 1. Them and Benton go at it in the first round. That's one that I think a lot of people should be dialed into, because Benton was a District 4 champion. But Faith Christian is just, they're much like Bishop McDevitt and Quaker Valley. They have a lot of studs. It's those other guys that they need to have perform, not give up the bonus points for them to come out with a big-time victory.
Well, when you look at so you mentioned Chestnut Ridge in the bottom quadrant. Sounds like you like Saucon Valley in the Quaker Valley quadrant. Notre Dame, Green Pond, I guess, is the next semifinalist in Brookville. Is that what you're seeing it as?
Yeah. So the top one is interesting because I really you toss it up between Benton, Faith Christian, Brookville, and Burgettstown. It's really probably the most evenly matched quadrant there, in my opinion. Benton has had a good year, but they've been vulnerable. I mean, they were down like 20 points to Warrior Run before coming back in the District 4 tournament. Faith Christian, as I said, they just have a lot of studs, so that's never a good thing if you're giving up bonus points. And Brookville and Burgettstown, I think obviously Burgettstown without Suika changes the complexity of that. I think Brookville is favored there, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see any four of those teams make it out into the semifinals, to be honest. I mean, Brookville I'd give the edge to for sure, but I'm not sleeping on Faith Christian against Ben, and I'm not looking past Burgettstown. So that's probably the most evenly matched one. I do believe Notre Dame Green Pond's going to come out of that other quadrant on the top half. They're the number one team in the state for a reason. They pounded Saucon Valley. Now there's There's a lot of controversy between Saucon Valley and Notre Dame Green Pond. I won't get into that because this is a WPIAL show, but there's just a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes there. I do believe Notre Dame comes out from that bottom half, or bottom quadrant of the top half. I like Saucon Valley with Ryan Crookham back. It changes the whole game. So him back, I really do think that they're on a mission. But Chestnut Ridge on that bottom, I think Chestnut Ridge is just, they're really, really good. They're really, really balanced. And look at what they did at the Ultimate Duels. They pounded everybody, Burl included. So that's one that I think Chestnut Ridge and Saucon Valley should be a really good semifinal if that does happen.
So it sounds like you got your top three: Chestnut Ridge, Saucon Valley, and Notre Dame GP. So the fourth place spot, I guess, is the one you're saying is kind of up for grabs. Kind of WPIAL team get into that fourth place spot.
I mean, sure, anything's possible, right? I mean, but I think Quaker Valley can wrestle back. I think Quaker Valley can certainly, depending on what they do against Saucon Valley, if they drop down, they certainly, I think they're one of the better teams in the bracket, especially after what we saw this past weekend. So I think they're in the mix. I think they're better than Corey. I think they battle with a Benton or a Faith Christian. Same with Forest Hills and Bowling Springs. I think they're better than both those teams, and I think they're pretty evenly matched with like a team like Hickory. So I'd expect Quaker Valley to do well in the wrestleback should they lose to Saucon Valley. But don't forget about Burrell. Burrell is you talked about with Justin Richey about these guys not being a Hershey. Literally, Burrell should own stock in Hershey Arena or Hershey Entertainment because they're there so much, right? So Burrell is very accustomed to wrestling inside the Giants Center. So that, I think that's a factor. I think that can be a little bit of a factor this week when you're in front of the crowds and everything else that goes along with it.
So when you look at the bracket and how it lays out, you have Quaker Valley is probably going to have a tough time to medal. I think they're going to get some wins, like you mentioned, but because of the fact that a loss to Saucon Valley, to get a medal, they're going to have to beat either Saucon Valley or Chestnut Ridge, just because of where they fall in the consolation bracket. That's where they'd have to beat one of those two teams. Burgestown and Burrell on the other side, if they advance to the quarterfinals, then all three of them are going to have to try to beat one of those two teams to get a medal. But if they don't, they lose in, let's say, that round of 16, then they'd only have to beat that semifinalist team of Brookville, Benton, Faith Christian. So, you just kind of look at it as, it's almost as if Burgestown and Burrell have a pretty good placement to get that to potentially get a medal.
Yeah, I would say their road's a little bit easier because they don't have to go through either a Saucon or a Chestnut Ridge. But Brookville, they handled Burrell at the Ultimate Duels. Now that's a different lineup, and I still think
than they were then.
yeah, for sure. And I would just say it's going to be tough, right? I hate looking at the brackets and doing all the matchups because there's so many different factors. You're bumping around guys. You have guys weighing in. You have guys coming down. What I know is individually, Saucon Valley, Notre Dame, Green Pond, and Chestnut Ridge are three of the best teams in the state because of the individuals that make up that team. So it's going to be hard for any team to stay with them and to beat them. So, I think there's a next tier. I think after that, you have a tier in which Quaker Valley is certainly in. I think that they're definitely there, but Brookville is there as well. So, again, that's why they wrestle the matches, because I don't know why anyone listens to us, because look at what we said about the WPIAL, and boy, were we off on that.
Yeah, going in, not to beat a dead horse, but we thought it was 5 teams that, definitely stood above the rest of the pack. I think that was the case. But all along, the 3 section champs, Burrell, Burgestown, and Quaker Valley, were the 3 teams we kind of looked at as, hey, these are pretty evenly matched teams. But I think if, like we picked in our choices, you picked Burrell, I picked Burgestown to win. And that's because it seemed like those two were on a collision course once again to take on each other. And Quaker Valley had other plans. And like Justin Richey mentioned, this was the year that they had circled. This is the year for them to win the title. And they did just that. It was a 5-year plan to get there, but they were able to pull it off. So congratulations to Quaker Valley ending the streak. Another streak, though, has continued in AAA, and that is for Waynesburg. They were able to repeat for the 3rd year in a row as the WPIAL champions, and with a little bit more ease than we predicted last week, Jeff. You look at the bracket and how it shook out. Not really much surprise as far as the first round matches go. The top 7 seeds all won. Norwin was over Franklin Regional 34-33, but that's an 8 versus 9 matchup. And the semifinals kind of went out as expected as well. Waynesburg, Connellsville, Latrobe were able to get their wins. Cannon McMillan over North Allegheny, so hold serve as the top 4 seeds, advanced to the semifinals, and Cannon McMillan doing it with relative ease over North Allegheny to get there. So just looking at those Wednesday night matches, Jeff, not much surprise, right?
No, I wouldn't say they were surprised, but I can tell you I was concerned about my pick, even though I was wearing a Waynesburg shirt during the show. Latrobe had their hands full with Butler. It was a lot closer, I thought, than that score indicated, and they lost some matches that I thought, boy, I didn't know. I felt like they should have, like Cannon Mac, for example, they made a statement against North Allegheny, in my opinion. I thought they wrestled very, very well in up and down the lineup. So when I saw Latrobe wrestle Butler, and there were some matches that did not, they looked like they were struggling in, I was thinking, man, like maybe this Collinsville match is going to be a lot closer than we expected. And we knew 13, like at least I think I alluded to this last time, that was a huge swing for Leo Joseph over Petrovic, because Petrovic, you look at comparatives and you look at common opponents, Petrovic was just, he's got better results than Leo Joseph. So I wasn't surprised that he was able to turn the tide, but it was the movement that Bill Swink and his staff were able to do to set themselves up for a win. I mean, it was very masterful how he did it to move guys around and shift people around, and he did it in a way that exploited the weak spots in Latrobe's lineup, but it really highlighted their strengths, and their strength is their depth. A guy like Zach Bingham, who really was a backup for most of the year, comes out with a huge win, and that's because Hunter Claycomb is out and he's hurt. So again, I think you look at the depth and the flexibility of their lineup. That's really what separated them from Latrobe, because Latrobe didn't really have a whole lot of movement, especially with their heavyweight Wyatt Held not being active. So it just really showed that Collinsville was able to turn the tide.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You talked about Petrovic. Collinsville wins this match 37-27, but that was a 10-point swing for them at 113 pounds. Jacob Layton wrestles, but he gives up a fall to Kilkerry. So, the 120, they still get the 6, which we thought maybe they don't get 6 there. But yeah, that Lonzy Vilma move from going up to 45.
Huge. Yeah.
Big win for them.
Yeah, and you touched on it, because you look at how it started. Kilkerry last time got the injury default 6 points. He gets a fall this time, so like you said, after the 10-point swing that Leo Joseph had over Petrovic, and now Petrovic reversed that. You look at what Lucio Angelico did. He turned from a fall to Ruggiero last time to now he keeps it to a decision. So you're saving yourself 3 points there. That was big. But now all of a sudden, Ruggiero gets the fall. So that changed. I thought that really was pivotal. Other than the Lonzy Velma bumping up to 45 and beating Gabe Golden, I thought Ruggiero getting the fall on Angelico, as opposed to giving up that decision that he got last time. He won 9-6 the first time around. This time he gets the fall. So that was huge. That, in addition to Petrovic, I thought, boy, they're in trouble. I really thought that Latrobe was in trouble after that. And then the nail in the coffin was throwing Aiden Henry out to Nate Roth, giving up the 6, but then getting Lonzy Velmo on Golden and getting that 3-point team points for Collinsville. But then you look at Zach Bingham at 160, he gets thrown out there against Wyatt Schmucker and wins 6-4. That to me was huge. That was very, very big, because then they forced their hand. They forfeited to Kessler. Schultz is able to get a major decision against Snyder, and it goes on and on, right? It just kept on going their way, and I think the writing was on the wall early on that Latrobe was going to be they were going to have a tough mount at trying to get past that again.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side, meanwhile, Waynesburg defeats Cannon McMillan for the 3rd time in about 10 days, and they do it with another strong performance, 36-22. But you look at Canaan McMillan, they had some huge wins. Brandon Damai beats Kai Sheftick 3-2. Jacob Haupt, how about this? A major decision over Joe Simone, 10-0. But then it's, Xander Fatoris who defeats Andrew Binney again. Mac Church, Colin Stone King, Nate Jones, all those 4 big wins just kind of, kept it going for Waynesburg to defeat Canaan McMillan. Canaan McMillan wins the flip this time, so they get Matt Furman away from Rocco Welsh. So you thought with that, coupled with Halp's major decision, maybe they can turn the tide a little bit more, but just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I think you and I talked about that, where they were able to keep it's gotten closer every single time, and obviously things went their way with Damai having the win, but he had that win before too. So
right.
The biggest one was Jacob Haupt beating, Joe Simone, which he pounded him 10-0, right? So you think, okay, this is going to be a little bit closer, but then Xander Fatoris gets a good win against Andrew Binney. Those two were very close. Those bonus points between 32 and 38. Nate Jones, another very nice win over Tyler Sewell. So again, yes, it was certainly closer, but we kind of expected. Rocco Welsh gets a fall, right? Even though Furman's up at 89, they're still without Gabe Stafford, and Broxton Dean gets hurt. So, if Stafford's back in the lineup, does that make a difference? You save a team point at 72, maybe you get a win at 89. Broxton Dean doesn't get hurt or doesn't give up a fall. Maybe that changes things. So it could have been a little bit closer, but ultimately Waynesburg just had too much firepower.
In the third place match, Latrobe defeats Canaan McMillan. It was a 40-25 victory for Latrobe, and then in the championship, Waynesburg over Connellsville, 35-18. Number of big stories here. Obviously, Kai Sheftick, a big win over Petrovic, 6-2. Simone over Layton, 5-3. Connellsville had a big win from Lonzie Vilma over Colton Stone King, 7-5. But then the biggest story, Cole Hammett returns to the mat and wins 5-4 over Chad Jesko.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of emotions there, right? Cole was told earlier in the week that, hey, you're going to be a part of this. You're going to be on the mat. You're not going to be on the bench. You're going to be wrestling. I don't care. Coach Kyle Sheftick said he wanted him out there to be a part of that. And he had to do everything in his power to get that win. Jesko is a good wrestler, and Cole had to scrape and fight and claw as much as he could to get that win, but he got it done, right? Lonzie Velma, as you said, had a huge win over Colton Stone King. It's a freshman beating a senior, a state medalist, a guy who's going to George Mason University, and Lonzie comes in and gets a really nice win over him to stop the bleeding, if you will. I agree with you. Kai Sheftick clearly was not feeling 100%. That was obvious in that Damai match, but a big win for him over Evan Petrovic, which he needed to get that win. Simone bounces back from that loss to help to get a really nice win over Jacob Layton. And again, for Torres, another decision for him. Church got on Ozias. It was close, 7-3. So, we rarely see Mac Church not get bonus, but when you're going against a guy like Chad Ozias, who's a state medalist, you knew it was going to be a little bit close. Ethan Ansel had a nice win over Nate Jones. Kessler pins Kirby, but then this is where Waynesburg just really started exploiting them, and that's 72. They get a tech fall. Brody Evans gets a nice win over George Schultz. Eli Makel fall over Dennis Nicholson. Noah Tustin fall. So it all went their way, Waynesburg's way after that. And Waynesburg, man, if they had a 6-pounder and Cole Hammett, was the Cole Hammett that we know he was, and it would be a different team, and I think we'd be having a different conversation about where they're going to be at in the state. I still think they're going to battle, but they're certainly not the same team that we saw last year.
There'll never be a team we saw last year. I mean, I don't think there was any team that could touch Waynesburg. That was just such a dominant team. They blew through the PIAA team tournament last year. But you look at the brackets, Jeff, and First and foremost, we have 4 teams from the WPIAL who will be advancing to the Giant Center. Latrobe with a win over Carrick and Cannon McMillan over Cumberland Valley.
Yeah, and we obviously expected that win over Latrobe over Carrick, but Candimac drove out 4 hours to Cumberland Valley and then beat Cumberland Valley up pretty good, 44-14.
They should just packed their bags and stayed there, right?
Well, that's what I said. I said the same thing. Like, you might as well just stay there. You come back. It's going to be like 1 a.m. on Tuesday. You're going to drive out either Wednesday night or Thursday morning. So you might as well just go remote, do class from a hotel, and stay out there. I would be doing that if I was them. But
that's what I would too. That's just a lot of driving.
Especially when you're talking about cutting weight. Especially when you're thinking that's 8 hours in a car that you could be doing other things, right? Regardless, they had a really nice win over Cumberland Valley. They just really dismantled them. So they move on again, much like we said with Quaker Valley, getting Saucon Valley. Candimac draws number 1 Bethlehem Catholic in the first round. So 2 storied programs going head to head in the first round there. Latrobe, they have a nice draw. They come into Council Rock South, who they won District 1, but District 1's certainly not the deepest when it comes to the team race. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Latrobe come away with a win there, especially if Wyatt Held is back in the lineup, and if some of their other guys can get their heads on. I think they could easily find themselves into the semifinals, because I think they're probably the best team out of Council Rock South, General McLean, and Central Dauphin. So I want to say, I said how Bill Swink was very methodical in how he did the matchups. Maybe Mark Mears knew that they were going to get a better draw on the top half. I don't think that was the case. But Latrobe is sitting really pretty. I can tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. First and foremost, before we go through the rest of the bracket, the other 2 matches, Jeff, Springford, Dallastown, who's the winner there?
So I know for sure Nazareth won 68-0. So, but I was still waiting for a score from Springford. Next time you're talking, I'll look it up. But
okay,
either way, I think Springford is in some trouble, or Dow-Sound's in some trouble, whether they get, with a drawing Waynesburg. Nazareth, boy, they have a nice easy road. I think they shut out Westchester Henderson. They get Abington Heights. They may shut them out. And then they get the winner of Gettysburg and Williamsport, which will be the winner there, and I think it'll be Williamsport, but the winner there is going to give them a little bit more. But they're really not going to – them and Latrobe, I think, have some good – they have a good road to the semifinals.
Well, when you look at Bethlehem Catholic, they're going to have to earn their way, right? They're probably going to have to beat the WPIAL to get there. They're going to have Candimac first, likely to have Connellsville. I like Connellsville over LaSalle College. And then, like you said, Latrobe to the semis. So for Bethlehem Catholic to get there, they're going to have to beat 3 WPIAL or 3 WPIAL teams, and then potentially the WPIAL champ to win it all in Waynesburg. But on the bottom half, are you expecting it a Waynesburg Nazareth semifinal?
I am, for sure. I'm definitely expecting that to transpire. And like you said, if there's somebody who should be upset with their draw, it's Jeff Karam and the Bethlehem Catholic Hawks there, because like you said, they're going to have a tough. There ain't no easy matches. The 68-0 that we just saw Nazareth put on Westchester Henderson, Bethlehem Catholic and Candimac. That's a tough match, right? Those guys are not going to just roll over. Candimac is not going to just come in and say, "Oh, you're Becca. We're just going to pack this in." No, they're gonna scrape, claw, and fight to the last second against Becca. And I agree with you. Connellsville has a great draw with LaSalle College. I think Connellsville easily wins that match, and I think again, Bethlehem Catholic beats Candimac. It's like getting punched in the face and then getting stunned a little bit, and you're going to get punched a little bit harder the next time. Connellsville is going to give it to them. So You're right. I mean, if Becca's going to win it this year, they're going to have to do some really big winning against a lot of Western Pennsylvania wrestlers along the way. Because I agree, I think they're going to see Latrobe on that top half. So Canamac, Collinsville, and then Latrobe in that order. That's a tough road, and then you're either going to see Nazareth or Waynesburg in the finals. So you get a rematch with Nazareth, or you get a matchup with Waynesburg.
So let's look on that bottom half, Jeff. You alluded to it a little bit, but Waynesburg and Nazareth. Who do you like in that matchup?
You know, I go back and forth there. I think Nazareth is the team, but crazier things have happened. And the thing about Nazareth is they have not wrestled, I think, the same lineup in. I don't know if they've had the same lineup twice this year. They've had guys at different weights. They've had different guys in. They have, much like Connellsville, they have so much depth. They have guys on guys on guys. They have so many guys that they can throw at you. And Dave Kroll and his staff there are just so good at doing these matchups. Waynesburg, they are what they are. You know, they don't have a 6-pounder, so that hurts, especially when Nazareth, they're not that strong at 106. So that's one of their weaker weights. So that plays right into the wheelhouse, because Tahir Parkins at 13 is a stud. I mean, he just beat Nate Desmond, who bumped up from 106. Charlie Bunting, a stud. Braxton Opello, a 2-time state medalist. So no, I think Bunting and Simone and Fatoris and Opello, those are going to be tight matches, no doubt about it. And then you go right into your meat of your lineup with Mac Church. He should get bonus points. Colton Stone King. That you just lose to a freshman. How do you bounce back from that? Because Nazareth's not bad. They can have several different options there. They can put up Jake Dune, Aiden Rader. They have options. 45 is a big match. 45, 52, and 60 right before we get into Rocco Welsh. But then you have Sonny Sasso. Sonny Sasso is a pinner. I mean, all Sonny Sasso does is pin. So I don't know if he doesn't get bonus points. Maybe Waynesburg's in that match. Sean Kinney at heavyweight, if he's able to get bonus points on Noah Tustin, that's pretty big. I could see Sonny Sasso going up to 215 and Chase Levy staying down at 189 against Waynesburg. And like I said, they're not that strong at 106. Dominic Risotto is good, but by them giving a forfeit to him, that just plays right into their wheelhouse. So I think Nazareth is the team, but you can't discount Waynesburg when you have Mac Church, Colin Stone King, Rocco Welsh, and all these other guys that like Eli Makel and Noah Tustin, Xander Fatoris, Kai Sheptick. Like those are really good guys to have around you battling. So the only difference is Nazareth has like 3 times as many guys, I think, that they can put out and move around to manipulate to get the lineup or the matchups that they want.
Yeah, and that's where one area. I mean, Waynesburg can do a little bit of bumping, but not a whole lot. I mean, there's not much they can really do, and because of that, I mean, their hands are going to be tied. They're going to have to. They need a 6-pounder. Like they need to get into high school and recruit somebody and tell them that they got to just not give up a pin. Because it's just that's it. I mean, they need somebody at that 106. This is where it makes a difference, right? They were able to win a WPIAL championship while giving away 6 points every single time. But to win a state title, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at, Becca and what they're able to do on the top half. I mean, Becca's just everything Nazareth has thrown at them, they've deflected. They blocked. They're like that goalie that's just like stonewalling people. Nazareth threw 3 different lineups at them, and they still found a way. And this last one was, more things went Becca's way with getting Nate Desmond up on 113, but then Nazareth turns the tide and, they get the win there. And Cale McIntyre gets a win over Charlie Bunting. And there's just those 2 teams are I think on a collision course. I think Waynesburg's really going to look to exploit Nazareth where they're not as tough and where Waynesburg is really tough. But it's those other guys. It's Kai Sheptick. It's Joe Simone. It's Xander Fatoris. Those are the guys that are going to either win or lose this match potentially, because that's where Nazareth, they just keep on coming. Nick Foster, Vinny Heibel, Dom Wheatley, Noah Okamoto. If he's back in the lineup for Nazareth, that's no good, because Noah Okamoto, they can move him around, and maybe he'll give up a tech fall or a fall to Rocco Welsh, or maybe he'll keep it to a major decision. You just don't know. And as I mentioned, Sonny Sasso, he loves to pin people. He's like his brother Sammy. So there's just going to be a lot of close matches, but ultimately I think Nazareth just has more in the tank.
So you look at Bethlehem Catholic and Nazareth as the 1-2. From there on, though, Jeff, I mean, well, I think we talked about Waynesburg being as high as 1, but as low as 3. We talked about Latrobe being in that 4 mix. Connellsville, I think you had them as like a 6. Can McMillan around like an 8. So realistically, though, I mean, with the way the brackets fall and the way we're predicting, Can McMillan to, probably lose their first match, and Connellsville win, then a lose. Latrobe win 2, then a loss to Becca. The consolation semifinals could realistically be Waynesburg versus Connellsville, Latrobe versus Can McMillan for the right to get 3rd and 4th place. Is that a realistic opportunity that you see that could go down?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not. I don't think that's looking through rose-colored glasses. I think that's a real thing, and I think the WPIAL is certainly. I mean, there are 3 really, really tough teams there, and I would say 4. Even considering Kane and Max they're gonna battle, right? When you look at the way the bracket shakes out, the one that I would say keep an eye on is that Gettysburg and Williamsport match in the first round on Thursday, because Williamsport, should they win, I think that bodes better for the WPIAL down low on the bottom, because I don't think either one of those schools is going to get past either that Waynesburg, Waynesburg or Nazareth, obviously. But I think Latrobe, if they make it out to the semifinals, they're in a great position to bounce back, because Mifflin County and Quakertown is a big match. I'm really looking forward to that one, but I think Mifflin County wins that. So you're saying Waynesburg then beats Mifflin County or Quakertown, but Williamsport and Gettysburg is the one I'm keeping my eye on to see, because Williamsport matches up well with a team like Connellsville, but I don't think they match up particularly well against a team like Cannon Mac or Latrobe. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the names here, I'm not surprised to see 4 to 3 WPIAL teams battling for a medal here in Hershey. So that's just to say the eastern part of the state, District 11, and the WPIAL are just 5 of those top teams. You have 4 from the WPIAL, 2 from District 11. I think they are the best. You throw in a Williamsport and a Mifflin County into the mix, they're gonna mix it up a little bit, but I don't think District 1 or District 3 is gonna have as good as a time as District 7 and District 11.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out here at the Giants Center. But the good news for the WPIAL is that all 4 in AAA and all 3 in AA will be wrestling in the double elimination bracket in the Giants Center. So it should be a lot of fun to see how it all plays out. And Jeff, this is it. Last week of team portion, and then from then on in, we're diving into individuals.
Yeah, it's crazy because last year we did it opposite. The teams, it was just weird in general, but teams was after individuals. So I love getting back into the flow of things, getting back to normal. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of good matches. That consolation round is some of my favorite wrestling goes on in the consolation round, because you get some interesting matchups, and I've seen teams that you're like, how the heck did they get out to that far? But they get on a hot streak, a team gets upset and they're down and they have a quick turnaround. So it's going to be a lot of fun, but I would not be surprised to see the WPIAL come away with a few a few trophies in either class.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. Congratulations to Quaker Valley for their first WPIAL championship and beating the streak. And then in AAA for Waynesburg winning their third straight WPIAL championship. And best of luck to all 7 teams and hoping as many medals as possible. So we have a nice full show come next week, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, keeps us busy. It's gonna be fun. I'll be there, you know, watching and hoping that we get to see a lot of good wrestling. I think we will, and we're gonna see a lot of state-ranked wrestlers go head-to-head, which is why I love the team tournament, because we get to see that mix between different districts and get to see where guys are at for the individuals.
Thanks to Justin Richey for joining us on the show. For Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for watching. We're up on WPIAL.